Okay. Sorry. The Board of Appeals and Planning and Zoning Departments welcome all of you to the meeting tonight. By attending this meeting, we sincerely hope the results are informative to you on how the system handles each application because all requests are different. Our board members are Chair Francis Liu, Kamisha Lowry, Vice Chair Beverly Williams, Gary Alden, and Sharisa Ingram. Madam Secretary, would you please call the attendance?
Sharisa Ingram. Beverly Williams.
Present.
Gary Alden.
Here.
Kamisha Lowry. Absent. And Madam Chair Francis Liu.
Here. At this time, I will ask all members of staff to please stand, state your name and your duties within the county. Please remain standing and the secretary will place each of you under oath.
I'm Allison Harden, Development Services Director.
April Williams, Planning Director.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Thank you. Our next order of business is to approve the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, could I please have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Our next order of business is to approve the minutes for September 3rd, 2024. Are there any changes to the minutes? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, raise your hand to approve. Unanimous. I apologize. Has staff made it possible for all applicants or appellants to receive information of this meeting?
Yes.
Have all adjacent property owners within the required limits been notified?
Yes.
Was there a notice of this meeting published in the local newspaper to include the meeting place, date, time, and the agenda?
Yes.
Is there a copy posted in the lobby of the administration building?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Harden, may I ask the question that I asked to be inserted? Was there a site visit conducted for each case?
Yes.
Thank you. The Zoning Board of Appeals duties are within three specific areas. A, administrative review is an appeal of an order or decision of the administrator that has alleged errors. B, the power to grant a variance is given to the Board of Zoning Appeals by the state of South Carolina. Variances may be granted when strict application of the zoning ordinance would cause unnecessary hardship, and the granting of the variance would not cause substantial detriment to adjacent properties or the public good. C, special exceptions are permitted uses within a zoning district, but require a public hearing prior to granting final approval. A public hearing is conducted to review comments and information both for and against proposed applications. During the public hearing portion of the meeting, all interested parties will be given the opportunity to speak and give factual information or present factual documentation. Opinion and hearsay are inadmissible. All persons wishing to speak will sign the register prior to speaking, and all persons speaking will be placed under oath. Anyone speaking will come forward to the podium, speak into the microphone, state his or her name and address, and be sworn in. All information is put on the record. For purpose of clarity, staff will make their report first. The applicant or appellant will speak next and will also have an opportunity for a rebuttal after citizens' comments. Citizens who wish to be heard will speak third. Please limit comments to no more than the allotted time per Section 6B of the Rules and Procedures, which is 4 minutes. Do all board members agree to the order of this meeting?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yes. I now declare the public portion of our meeting open. We will call each speaker to the podium. Item 5A, VAR-2024-1844, Panda Express sign. Staff Representative Allison Harding. You have been sworn in, so you do not need to be sworn again.
We're adjusting our PowerPoint. Give us one moment, please. Because of the new Nova software, some things get flip-flopped, and it was in the wrong order, but we'll be there in just 1 second. Thank you.
You spoke just long enough to get us there. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a variance request by Ross MacArthur on behalf of Panda Express CFT NB Developments LLC. They are locating their new location at 8474 Charlotte Highway, and they have asked to have an increase in the availability or the maximum square footage of signage on their property, on their building, from 50 square feet to just over 53 square feet. In the application, the property is, click on the projector part again, please. There we go. The proposal is to, I'm going to ask you to forward slides when possible, because the clicker is not working as it should have. But that's cool. We've got options. Thank you. The property is shown on the screen and outlined in blue. This is part of the Arches development. It is an out parcel that faces Charlotte Highway. It is subject to the regulations under the Highway Corridor Overlay and the underlying district of Regional Business, RB. Would you go to the next one, please? The civil construction plans have been approved and permits are being issued for the new restaurant, and signs are part of that proposal. Regional business allows for wall signs under the restrictions in the code, section 7.4.5.A, which is 50 square feet per wall or 1 square feet per linear feet of building wall, whichever is greater. And the total building wall signage overall, 75 square feet. If you go next, please. The applicant has provided signage as part of their civil plans and their building permit. This is one of the examples on the face, the north elevation that shows the signage there. If you go to the next one, please. And then the details of the proposed signage. The total of the proposed signage is just a bit over the allowed availability. Because staff looks at the numbers as a packet, the maximum is the maximum. The maximum of 50 square feet is what we apply here. The applicant has exceeded that, so we appropriately turned down the application, and the applicant then has filed for an appeal. We don't have very much else to say about that. It's either 50 or it's not for us, so we'll let the applicant explain the conditions as to the why for the request.
Thank you. We'll now call the applicant, Ross MacArthur, for Panda Express. If you will just come forward and state your name, address, and be sworn in.
Yes, good evening. My name is Ross MacArthur. I'm from Harrisonburg, Virginia.
And could I have your address, please?
321 Elk Lane in McGaheysville, Virginia.
Thank you. If you'll raise your right hand, you'll be sworn in.
State your name for the record. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Well, again, thank you for seeing me. And as you saw on the site plan, this particular sign on the north elevation has a limited sight line. It's very restrictive. It is not only recessed into the bulkhead by having caps on either side on the columns and the top, it's not proud off the building. So you have to have a perfect sight line to see that sign. It's
Sorry, could
also-
you explain that again about the columns and things?
You see on either side of the sign, what it's mounted to is the bulkhead, and above it is the roof cap, and you can see sort of a shadow coming down over it. So it's slightly recessed into the wall. So you cannot see it from any other elevation or any other direction unless you're coming south. So it's a one-directional type sign. And you have some trees, advanced tree growth that also blocks that view, and the driveway's not right in front of our property, it's just before the property. So you have to have almost a perfect sight line to see that sign and get into the left lane and make your turn. The design of the
I'm
sign
sorry, to get into the left lane going which direction?
heading south,
Okay,
right? So you're coming from the north, you're heading south, you need to get into the left lane to get into the plaza, get into our restaurant.
understood.
There's an established left turn lane.
Yes.
The design of this sign is part of our national standard. We have 3,400 restaurants across the country and only 11 in South Carolina. So our brand recognition, I'm sure a lot of people have heard of Panda Express, of course, but there's none in the area. The closest one is almost 24 miles away.
Oh, the closest one is probably at Carowinds in the amusement park.
Where's that?
About 17 miles from, from the spot where this restaurant is, probably about 11 miles.
It's a good distance, so population you want to draw from is the immediate area. You really want that exposure, and you want that consistency in the brand, which that particular sign is. You'll see there's other signs on the building that are round, and they're a much smaller sign, but this is the only one that really calls out Panda Express and individual channel letters. It's on our main elevation. It's a very important sign to us. We're asking for a minor adjustment of only 0.3 above the code of 50 square feet, and we're asking for a favorable decision on your part.
May I ask you, are all the signs that exact size, and just for argument's sake, why you couldn't bring it down that 3.13 square feet?
Well, it's all our signs are exactly like that right across the country.
The same exact size?
The exact same size.
Okay,
So when you're manufacturing, you manufacture the same widget exactly the same every time for cost efficiency.
that's all I was getting at, is every sign the exact same size. That's fine. There's just,
We only have two sizes. It's this one at 53.13 and then the other one at 36. That's the only two
okay,
signs that we have.
that's understandable. Does anybody have any questions?
Sir, is the sign integral to the background that it's mounted on? And what I'm trying to ask there, you mentioned the overhang that's limiting the sight vision. My first impulse was to lower the Panda Express sign on the background and then move it to the left. I'm sorry, Allison, you're right. We're trying to help them design it. Oh.
Oh.
He
Thank
could
you.
have asked me to use my outside voice. I would have been glad to. I'm sorry, sir, did you catch my question, or should I
I
repeat?
did, and I understand it, but it's integral.
Have you got it okay on record? Let me repeat it so that it's on tape. My question is just simply this: is the Panda Express sign mounted on the background? And if so, can the Panda Express sign be lowered to allow for that access problem caused by the overhanging eaves? And then question two, corollary is, can it be moved plan view or elevation left?
Well, two things. First of all, it's street proud. Like, I mean, it's towards the street. Centering it does really nothing because of the way the parking lot comes in.
I'm sorry, I thought you said that the column to the right was also impeding the vision.
Marginally, like the sign is 4 inches wide. That column is 2 inches wide. So it's actually proud by 2 inches. It's just a recessed area is what I'm saying. But that sign is directly in line of where they come in from the parking lot, and that's what they see right in front of them. They park to the side, and then they go in. You can see that small wall, square canopy there. That's the main doors. So it's drawing the people from the parking lot that don't see the doors, because there's another set of parking spaces there, to that side and to draw them into the building. I understand what you're saying, center it on the building, lower it a bit, but that would not be consistent with our national standard. Or have you been to the site? Have you seen the sight lines for that?
I'm relying on the information provided by the staff.
Where it is in a perfect spot to be seen from the traffic coming from the north, heading southbound, people coming into our parking spaces.
Thank you.
When will it be open? Are you in politics, sir? Okay. Are there any other questions for the applicant? No? Are there any questions from members of the audience? All right, we don't need a rebuttal. Yes, ma'am. Certainly.
I appreciate what the applicant has indicated as the challenges to this. I wanted to make 2 points to follow up, is that our code is not designed to fit to any one community's national standards. And the second is that the applicant said that he has a 36-foot sign as well as a 53-foot sign, and the 36-foot sign would meet the code.
Thank you. Mr. MacArthur? You did say that these are ready, I don't want to say ready-made, but built to standard. Is it not possible to make one that would conform to 50 square feet?
Anything's possible, but there'd be additional cost and time.
Oh, yes, would you please say?
Additional cost and time. And it would look different from any other Panda Express across country. The sign that she's referring to is called a badge. It's like a logo. I don't know if you know Laura.
With the panda?
Yes. It doesn't say Panda Express the way this does. It
Okay.
clearly indicates Panda Express. And it's LED illuminated with red acrylic faces. It is very distinctive, very easy to see at a distance. The logo has the panda, and the letters are only 5 inches tall, and they're on a circle. So
That's okay. We can eliminate the 36-inch one for the purpose of this discussion. But to Ms. Harden's point, that we do not change standards for different companies. And I'm trying to think how to say this, but it is a small amount, but to conform to, that's what I was going to say. It wouldn't look the same as your other signs. Do you really believe any customer is going to say that sign is 3 square feet smaller than every one I've seen in the United States?
I don't think they would.
3 inch? No, is it 3 inches? 3 feet.
3 square feet.
Yeah.
Which is this tall by a foot. Yes, they would notice a difference. I am the compliance officer for Panda Express across the country. I talk every week about it, and I do hear people say they notice a difference. We picked a standard size for a reason, for distance, visibility, and sight lines. That's our only really decent advertising showing our name. The other one is just a logo because it becomes brand recognition. It's on the bags, it's on our cups, it's on everything else. But this is very integral to our site.
I'm just having difficulty deciding that 3 square feet would have any hardship on your business or cause you to lose any customers because they didn't see it because it was only 50 square feet.
Well, it's also the distance that they have to see it, advanced tree growth, the 45-mile-an-hour speed limit along the highway there, other obstacles in the way. It's not just that one item that is integral to this.
I should tell you, I drive by there every single
time.
day. Every single day.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's why I'm having trouble with deciding that 3 square feet would make a difference. We just had to make that U-turn today in front of your store. So I'm having,
I see Belk's and Food Lion and McDonald's all have larger signs,
they are allowed 75 square feet in total.
but they do have
But
secondary signage as well.
Ms. Harden, could you address that because I cannot?
They were built prior to the code that's in now.
So it is, other brands in the area do have this.
Yes, and apparently when they redid the code and felt, let's clean things up and have a, I don't want to presuppose why they did it, but for
You
neat,
had to pick a standard.
everyone who's come in since the UDO was put into place with the sign limitation has had to deal with that same limitation.
Can I ask her a question?
Yes?
Has there been,
No? That's not appropriate. Oh, okay, that's right. No, you cannot.
has there been any other retail outlets given a variance?
Not since I have been on the Board of Zoning Appeals, and I believe that's 9 years.
Well, I still ask, please.
Yes, of course you
I
can
will
ask.
throw in some free lemon chicken and some egg rolls to everyone here.
I know you're joking, but I know you're joking. But I understand what you're saying. Like I said, I'm having trouble establishing a hardship, and that's what we have to go on. We can't go on emotion, how much we like you, how much we like lemon chicken. We have to go on standards and whether it would cause a hardship. And in this case, I am having trouble establishing a hardship for the 3 square feet. Any other comments or questions from? All right, could I, if there's seeing none, if there's a motion, and please, please remember, we prefer to make a motion in the positive so it's easier to understand for all of us. Yes, ma'am.
Before you go into deliberation, would you please make a motion to go out of public if you're finished with the public comments and the like?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I ask one question?
Yes.
So if you come to the determination that you will not permit a 53 square foot sign, you would permit a 50 square foot sign?
We would permit a 50 square, asking that,
As long as
It
it
would-
meets UDO.
it would be allowed under the Unified Development Ordinance that 50-foot, we wouldn't be here. You would not have to return. Okay. Oh, I have to do this, the standards. Where are ours? Sorry? Yes. The public portion of the meeting is now closed. All speakers have been heard, and we will deliberate on our zoning variance criteria. Number one, that there,
I have to make a motion
I was
to
going
vote
to say, do we
first.
make a motion
The
after?
vote.
Ms. Harding, it's been a couple of months. We deliberate and we go through the criteria and then make a motion after.
Deliberation is for discussion back and forth amongst the board. When you make the motion to approve or disapprove, that's when you go through the checklist.
Okay,
And then the motion will pass or fail based on that.
thank you very much. All right, may I have a motion so that we can go into deliberation on the criteria?
I make a motion that we approve as stated.
The variance to the code. Okay. Second?
Second.
All right. Number one, that there are practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships in the way of carrying out the strict letter of the ordinance. If you believe there are practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships, please raise your hand to approve. 0. And if you disagree, please raise your hand. If you feel there are not unnecessary hardships. Thank you. Number 2, that if the applicant complies with the provisions of the ordinance, the property owner seeking the variance can secure no reasonable return or make no reasonable use of his property. If you agree with the statement, please raise your hand. If you disagree, please raise your hand. Number 3, that special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved, and which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings located in the same land development district. If you agree, raise your hand. If you disagree, raise your hand. 1, 2. That the variance will not materially diminish or impair established property values within the surrounding area. If you agree, raise your hand. 3, 0. If you disagree, raise your hand. That the special conditions and circumstances referenced in 3 above result from the application of this ordinance and not from the applicant's actions of the applicant. If you agree, raise your hand. If you disagree, raise your hand. 3, 0. That the variance is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of this ordinance and preserves its spirit. If you agree, raise your hand. If you disagree, raise your hand. Number 7, that the variance is the minimum necessary to afford relief. If you agree, raise your hand. If you disagree, raise your hand. And number 8, that the public health, safety, and general welfare have been assured and substantial justice has been done. That is, if the variance is granted, raise your hand. If you disagree, raise your hand. And would you please read the results to us on which approve and fail?
Number 1 fails. Number 2 fails. Number 3 is 1 to
1 to 2, yep.
number 3 passes. Number 4 passes.
Right, sorry.
Number 5 passes. Number 6 fails. Number 7 fails, and number 8 fails.
Okay. The variance is denied. Thank you, sir. Okay. The second item is 5B VAR-2024-1738, Oughton. And Ms. Harden, would you please present the case?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Amanda Alton has applied for a variance from UDO Section 5.2.7.b, the age limit of mobile homes to allow a mobile home to be moved to another property. Ms. Alton, the overview of the location, which is relevant to the discussion, is shown on the location map. Ms. Alton currently has a mobile home located at 4100 Red Maple Road in Lancaster, South Carolina, and is proposing to relocate it approximately 750 feet down the road to an unnumbered lot also on Red Maple Road in Lancaster, South Carolina, that she owns. The zoning district for both properties are AR, agricultural rural, which does allow for manufactured homes with conditions, including the one about age and movement. The mobile home was registered with the state in 1987, and approximately 37 years ago. Ms. Alton was denied a permit to move the mobile home to a nearby tract because the home that she owns is more than 30 years old. Per Lancaster County UDO Section 527B, mobile homes over 30 years old cannot be moved within the county. This is the specific citation for the code, that existing manufactured homes older than 30 years can remain, but if removed, that manufactured homes shall be replaced with those built no earlier than 30 years from the current year. The proposal is to relocate from the current location shown in the first area, the top area with a blue arrow, and then to move to the proposed location. The proposed location currently is owned by Ms. Alton, and before she can prep that site, she needs to know if the house can be moved, and that's the question that we're discussing here today. We have photos of the site. There's facing north on Red Maple Road and south on Red Maple Road, showing the signage that we put out in place. And then facing the subject mobile home, there was a good bit of greenery around there, so we defaulted to more information using the GIS data, showing the aerial photography of the home on the site. This is aerial photography from January of 2024. And so our staff report is very short in that it says that this is the code, that we are not able to vary from that. As such, the applicant has asked for the BZA's review and of the request. And I will turn it over to Ms. Alton. Is it Alton or Uten? Uten, Ms. Uten. Unless you have any other questions for me at this point.
Do you know when this was adopted in the UDO?
2016.
2016? And do you know why it was adopted?
Oftentimes, those manufactured homes that are older than 30 years are not, there are codes that they may not be current with. As the building codes improve for both structures and manufactured homes, we try to keep current with that. Manufactured homes have wind zone provisions that have to be met as part of the construction. And sometimes they are just not in good condition. Some are, some are not. But 30 years became the time frame that they put into the code at that time. There are other areas that have different time frames, some of them shorter, some of them longer. But two of the key dates are for manufactured home in my previous employment, because as my previous employment as a planner with the city of Myrtle Beach for 22 years, we did a review of manufactured homes regulations, and we installed two deadlines, that nothing that could be brought into the city that was older than 1976, because that is the year that HUD started with regulations on manufactured homes based on public health and safety. And from 1995, when the state adopted the Wind Zone 2 provisions or the HUD adopted the Wind Zone 2 provisions for manufactured homes, and Wind Zone 2 was important in our area because of the hurricane strength winds. Those are two dates that I know from my personal experience, and I relay that to you as not as a technical guidance that I have here on paper, but from my professional experience in the past. That's every bit of what I have there for you on how we are, where we are.
Do you know if most communities have limitations such as this?
There are some that have communications like this. Not quite sure because we did not do a full
Right.
explanation on
I
that.
didn't expect you to know, but I wondered if just
Right.
anecdotally you knew.
Another point is that the 1987 range, that does absolutely meet the HUD guidance, because after the 1976 ruling, everything had to be up to a certain standard. And then the wind zone provisions in our area are different than the ones that are in the beach.
Okay, sir?
96. There we go, sorry.
96 is the wind zone provision for the beach areas.
The beach.
Yes, sir.
We're here?
No, sir.
And that's just to make them stronger so that hurricane force winds, they could withstand hurricanes.
Yeah, that part. Did the staff do any kind of site visit on this?
We did. We did not evaluate the actual structure. We went to the site and did the visit and took the pictures, then did the aerial investigation. Any movement from this, if you allow it, will be the responsibility of the applicant. What we will do as staff is if you allow this to be relocated, there'll be an inspection when it goes back on the ground.
And that inspection will, of necessity, bring the manufactured home up to current standards, am I correct?
It will not affect the structure of the manufactured home. It will affect the connection to water and sewer. And if you'll give me just a minute, I want to make sure with my staff that you don't know of anything different than that. We don't go in and do a full-on inspection, no. Yeah. The things that we check when manufactured homes are relocated is if it's got a permit from the DMV, because manufactured homes are permitted through DMV. They're personal property rather than real property. And we make sure that it is, that when it's moved and located, that it's properly connected to the utilities on the site. Before it's moved, we make sure there are utilities on the site that it can be connected to. And they need a permit to move on the road, and they need a permit to move on the road.
And that I'm struggling with is, in my head, is moving a 30-year-old plus manufactured home on a public access and all of the ramifications of that, and I don't expect you to answer that, Allison.
You're absolutely right. I cannot answer that. That is something that we haven't really had, and well, at least since have we given a variance on this that you're in your memory? Not in the last 6 or 7 years in our memory. Doesn't mean it's not available or possible. Just means that we don't have the knowledge to answer the question.
I can add a personal note to that. I bought a property in Indian Land, and it had a very old mobile home on it. It was like pre-1975. But I was wanting to put another mobile home on it, which I could do as long as it was within 6 months of moving the old one out. And it was moved all the way down to Lower South Carolina, where that county that it was moved to did not care about the age of the mobile home, and it moved just fine. They're built to move.
If there's no other questions of me in this particular section, this is where I'm supposed to step back and let you talk to the applicant.
Exit stage right.
Thank you.
All right.
Now we call
We'd like the, pardon me?
call it back in public order.
Oh, yes, we need to open the session again because we closed the public portion.
Technically, yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Section has a public section, and then you close it so that there's no other public input, yes.
The public portion of the meeting is now open. Thank you very much, Vice Chair. Now we'd like to hear from the applicant. If you'll come forward, state your name and address, and then raise your right hand to be sworn in.
Amanda Uten, 4100 Red Maple Road, Kershaw, South Carolina.
All right.
Okay, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm to testify testimony that you are about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, if you'll present your case to us, and if you can speak into the microphone, please.
I just need to move it across the road.
I'm sorry, a
I
little
just
bit.
need to move it across the road to my property because where it's at is my cousin's land. And a judge ordered it to be moved.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
I do. Does the mobile home still have the axles on it?
I believe so, but the person that will be moving it, he has everything that it'll need to be moved.
Okay.
So in interpreting that, you have a professional fabricated home mover that's already there, and that person has said that it's movable.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Lancaster County is got the 30-year rule. Where the property is, it's like on the line between Kershaw County, Lancaster County.
Is it in Lancaster County?
Lancaster
That's all
County.
that's relevant.
So, yeah, but
Yes. It doesn't matter what any other county does. We can only deal with Lancaster County.
And are you moving it into Kershaw County?
Okay,
it'll be right on the line, but it's still part of.
Lancaster. So you said, wait, now, something that is relevant. Kershaw County does not have the ruling, so you could find property in Kershaw,
No, I can't afford property there too.
but you could move it to Kershaw.
I think their rule is that you can move it. I think it would just have to be like brick underpinned or something. They have a different type of rule as far as the year.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? Of factual nature?
I hate the pressure.
Yep. Do you have questions?
I need a few moments.
You need a few more minutes? That's fine. Do you have any questions?
Do you already have any, is there a well on there, or is it open to public water? Do you have any of the,
We just had a perk test done last week or this past week, so I'm waiting on the permit. I have it through email, but I'm waiting for it to actually come to get the paper permit. There is a well, a proposed well site that I'm on well now, so it'll go over to well.
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand. You have permits for
The perk test, it was
the perk?
the yeah, for the proposed land, yeah.
so you're going to have to pay to
There's
put a
a
well and a septic tank in there? No?
Well's there. We will
I'm
have
sorry,
to get
you
a
have to be
septic tank.
sworn in if you want. You're welcome to speak, but you have to be sworn in. Okay.
Step on up there and get sworn in.
My name is Louis Clay Mitchell. I live at 4094 Red Maple Road, the property adjoining.
Sir, before you're sworn in, I have a staff member. Just Oh, yes, he had his hand up. He was ready. All right.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth? Okay.
I own the property around her and on the other side of the road. It used to all be one property that belonged to my parents. They're both deceased. My sister now owns the land that's in yellow where the mobile home sits, and the home across the road where I was raised. They are forcing her off, evicting her off of the property. And there's a driveway that leaves where the mobile home is now that goes straight across the road, and it'll go to right where that 2-acre lot is that we gave her. And there is a well beside her property, it's a deep well that I own, and I'll be piping it into her. Just wanted to clear that up.
Okay.
It's a hardship for her. She doesn't make a lot of money.
I'm sorry, this has to be just factual, sir.
Okay. I just wanted to make it known that there is a well right there for her.
Thank you very much.
I will be deeding her off 15 acres with her two.
Sir, I'm sorry that we can only deal with the information for tonight, but thank you.
Well, he brought up, so you don't own the land, right? He's letting you move it
No,
on?
no, no. I own 2 acres.
The little blue square. Okay, so you do own that. Okay, thank you.
Am I supposed to sit down?
Pardon me?
I don't have any more questions. She wanted to know if she could go sit down.
Oh, yes, of course, you can sit down.
We need to talk privately.
I don't know that we can. We cannot speak privately,
Please
correct?
Speak privately.
No, we have to deliberate.
No, sir. No, it has to be out here.
All right, then I do have a question for either one of you, either the Ms. Uten or sir. You said you will be deeding her 15 acres?
Please come up to the microphone.
Yes.
I have 3 children, 4 children. And I'm going to be giving her 15 acres where her 2 acres is, and her brother will get the 2 acre.
Okay, I just wanted to see, so she is coming into 15 acres that she could sell?
No, it will not be sold. That's family land. And
Sir, I'm sorry, but it could be sold.
yeah, and the only
All right.
reason I brought that up is because where the deep well is, that will eventually be her property as well.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay. If there's no one else wishing to speak, we close the public part. Oh,
Did you want to speak?
you have to come up and be sworn, if you have factual information. Okay, thank you so much. The public portion of the meeting is closed. Yes,
Apologize. I need you to reopen and ask for any public comments. Not the factual parts, but the public comments.
yes,
And then if there's none, please close back.
thank you. The public portion of the meeting is back open. Are there any comments by the public? Anybody who would like to address this case? Seeing none, we're closing the public portion of the meeting. Thank you, Ms. Arden. All speakers have been heard. We need any questions from the board members to the applicant or to the staff? Do we have any?
No, but I would like to point out that it was brought up about her land. Well, really, the property that we're talking about is the mobile home. Is whether she can move it to her own property or not. It's already here in Lancaster County, and if things have been any different, it would stay on in Lancaster County. So.
You mean if there wasn't a UDO prohibition? You said if things were different.
For her situation, if she wasn't being evicted off her aunt's property.
Okay.
So that is the problem. It's not her land, whether she could sell it or not. It's her mobile home. That's her property. And if she is unable to move it, then it is useless to her.
Unless she moves it someplace else. She can move it any place that does not have the prohibition of 30 years. And she has stated she's on the borderline of Kershaw County without restrictions.
I don't believe that's reasonable, though, and that's what their guidelines state. It's reasonable hardship.
Okay,
But that's
There are-
my point that
there
I
are-
want to make.
Okay.
We each have our own opinions.
Yes,
That's what I wanted
absolutely.
to make.
Please clarify some more, Beverly. Please clarify some more your point. Can you? I mean,
That, you know, she could, I mean, the facts are that she is moving it to her own land. It's already here in Lancaster County. It's not that she's asking to bring in a mobile home that is from another county or wherever. She's just wanting to move it down the road. And in her situation, we have to consider the mobile home itself. And if we don't grant the variance, then that is unreasonable hardship, in my opinion.
fully agree. Fully agree. Thank you.
Okay. Board members, there are 3 actions for which a motion can be made. Motion to postpone the vote until the next meeting if the information provided is not sufficient for the board to make a decision. Motion to approve the variance, motion to approve with stipulations and conditions. Either a motion to approve or motion to approve with conditions brings the question to a vote on the 8 variance criteria. If any of the 8 variance criteria are denied by a majority vote, the variance is denied. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the variance as presented to us.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? No, we don't have to vote for the motion. Sorry. Okay, now we will go through the zoning variance criteria. Sorry, my page starts with number 9 because the other first 8, so it just took me a moment. I thought I was in the wrong place. Number 1, that there are practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships in the way of carrying out the strict letter of the ordinance. If you agree, raise your hand. If you disagree, raise your hand. That if the applicant complies with the provision of the ordinance, the property owner seeking the variance can secure no reasonable return from or make no reasonable use of his property. Raise your hand if you agree.
I'm confused.
Okay,
Story of my life. Ms. Auden is the applicant.
yes,
Her aunt is the owner
of the property.
of the property.
But the property in question would be, I believe, her mobile home.
Thank you.
So if she can't move it across the street, she can make no reasonable use of her property.
Agree.
And my... Call the vote again? We haven't voted yet. And I just wanted to, if we're discussing, I read it as the property owner can make no reasonable use of her property. She cannot move it to Lancaster County. She can make reasonable use of her property by moving it someplace else. Only she can't make reasonable use of her property if she doesn't move it to this place. I don't know if I just said that right or not. That she cannot move it to this location, but it can be moved to any other location. She's not prohibited from moving it. She's prohibited from moving it within Lancaster County.
Reasonable, right?
No.
Word reasonable in there?
Oh, no reasonable return,
Okay.
and make no reasonable use of his property, her property.
The origin, I think, of moving the trailer is in Lancaster County, and
Yes.
therefore that applies, whether she chooses to go to Kershaw or, doesn't matter. Am I okay?
Yep. So, we ready to call the vote? If the applicant complies with the provisions of the ordinance, the property owner seeking the variance can secure no reasonable return from or make no reasonable use of his property. If you agree, raise your hand.
Agreed.
What?
Agree.
Okay. If you disagree? Number 3, that special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved, and which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings located in the same land development district. Ms. Harden, can you help us here to make sure that we are going right? So the special conditions and circumstances, do we agree, exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved, which are not applicable to other land, structures, or other 30-plus-year-old trailers? So this does apply to all 30-plus-year-old trailers, mobile homes.
I can't interpret it for you.
Yes, correct.
What I can tell you is that the land, structure, and buildings, the words are repeated on purpose. It says, are the rules here applicable, or is there something special about this one that isn't applicable to others? That is something that you guys will have to determine through discussion.
Thank you.
I'd like to speak to, let's talk
Yes,
a minute.
please.
She's being evicted. That's a special set of circumstances.
That is not a special to the land, structure, or building.
Well, building,
What is it just happens?
building is the trailer.
Pardon me?
Building is the trailer, is the home.
Right. So this is not peculiar to her land, her structure, or her building.
That she's not, she's being evicted.
That is not part of the question. The question is that special conditions or circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, the structure, or building, not and circumstances. It's circumstances and conditions peculiar to the land, the structure, or the building involved, which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings located in the same land development district.
Well, in my opinion, the peculiarity of it is that it is over 30 years old, and this is just really relocating it across the road. We're not allowing.
I understand, and the UDO says, it doesn't say if they move it 10 feet or they move it 6 miles.
And that's why they're here, to ask for a variance.
I understand. No, I'm just saying that that is what the UDO says, and this determining factor that we have to vote on, whichever you feel, how you interpret, but it says that special, we have to agree or disagree, that special conditions and circumstances which are peculiar to her land, her structure, and her building, which do not apply to anyone else's land, structure, or building located in the same land development district. Ready to call the vote?
Yep.
All right. If you agree that special conditions which are peculiar are not applicable to other lands, raise your hand. If you disagree, raise your hand. Number 4, that the variance will not materially diminish or impair established property values within the surrounding area. I don't see how we can determine that.
Then therefore, we cannot choose to vote in the negative.
It's already zoned, it's already there. So it should be negative.
So it will not materially diminish or
I
impair.
cannot vote yes or no on whether it will diminish or impair established property values. I have no idea.
Well, then let's call the vote.
Arden?
I'm not aware of any provision for you to recuse from that or to abstain. You believe it does, or you believe it doesn't, or you believe you have enough information to make that, or you believe you don't have enough information, but I believe that you need to vote. I understand your concerns, but I believe you need to vote.
I will vote, but it's an uninformed vote. All right, if you believe it will not materially diminish or impair established property values within the surrounding area, raise your hand. That the special conditions and circumstances referenced in above result from the application of this ordinance and not from the actions of the applicant. So the special conditions result from the applicant and not from the ordinance.
Madam Chair, could you read it one more time, please?
Certainly. Do you agree that the special conditions and circumstances referenced in number 3 result from the application of this ordinance and not from the actions of the applicant? The actions of the applicant's relative causing the movement are not the result of the ordinance, it's the result of the personal circumstances that went into the consideration of number 3. Ready to vote?
I am.
Okay. Do you agree that the special conditions referenced above result from the application of this ordinance and not from the actions of the applicant? If you agree, raise your hand. If you disagree, raise your hand. That the variance is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of this ordinance and preserves its spirit. That's self-explanatory as far as, do you believe it's with the general purpose and intent of the UDO as written? Any discussion? If you agree, raise your hand. If you disagree, raise your hand. That the variance is the minimum necessary to afford relief.
I'm ready.
I'm thinking what the minimum necessary would be to afford relief. All in favor? Raise your hand. And that the public health, safety, and general welfare have been assured and substantial justice has been done. This is the one that concerns me for the next time. Is it substantial justice?
If we have another set of circumstances arise that is identical to this, then I think your point's well taken.
And if they are not?
Then we adjudicate on that new one.
Okay. All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed?
Okay, number 1 passes 3-0. Number 2 passes 2-1. Number 3 passes 2-1. Number 4 passes 3-0. Number 5 passes 2-1. Number 6 passes 2-1. Number 7 passes 3-0. And number 8 passes 2-1. The variance passes.
The variance passes. You're welcome. There are no additional public hearing items. For new business, Ms. Harden?
No new business. Is there anything else y'all would like to ask of us?
Yes, I did have some things I'm trying to. Oh, at our last meeting, I asked if you could please inform us of the cases that have appealed our rulings.
Yes, and my apologies, I have not pulled that together. I need to pull that for you and put that on priority for the next one.
Okay.
That's all on me.
No, that's quite all right. And could you please tell me how the decision came that we are no longer mailed?
Yeah, the decision was made because the new software that was compiled for all the boards and commissions has been given with a bigger upgrade, more robust uses. the priority is to get to electronic means as much as possible to save printing costs, to save paper cost. It's a cost-saving function. If you do still need a packet, let us know and we will still make it happen. We're trying to reduce it for all boards, not just you, not just Planning Commission, but the interest is in all boards.
I would like to always get a packet because, like I said, I don't have a printer to print it out
Right.
at home.
And we don't expect you to print it out at home. The expectation is that with the availability of the PDFs and the documents digitally, that you can zoom in, scan out, look at the details as you see fit. But if you would like a paper one, we'll provide that.
And
Can I buy a new portable computer to be recompensated by the board?
We don't have a budget for that.
So you're forcing a digital situation with no answer.
Well, if you don't have a digital option allows you to read it online, that would be an absolutely valid reason for you to request accommodation.
Thank
I
you
would
for
like a
letting me,
paper
Mr.
copy too. I don't even have Wi-Fi, so I'd have to read it on my little phone. So please.
Understood.
And for me, I do have a laptop, but I don't carry that around. And if I can have a packet, I can carry it around, and it's just much easier. Tonight's case it was pretty clear cut on measurements and looking at things, but with properties going forward, I think that, and I think it should be by request. The three of us requested it, but it doesn't have to be automatic if you want to check with other members of our board if they're okay with doing it.
I guess with the provision, you can drop me off from that, but please make sure that Jennifer gives me a proper URL that I can click on.
Sure. We'll get that to you. I do have, and thank you to Ms. Williams who gave me this handout. I do have an announcement that the county council at their last meeting appointed a new BZA member for District 6. Mr. James Falconberry Jr. Is interested in the Board of Zoning Appeals. He has employment in real estate, and as such will know something about conveyance of property and the like. He will have to be sworn in and receive the same initial training that everyone else does, but we look forward to welcoming him at a future meeting.
Would you please provide complete contact information?
Yes.
One moment.
I'm ready to go to Bible study. Let's go.
I'm looking at something before no, that's not. Bear with me for just a moment, please.
Sure.
In the interim, Allison, what are we doing with these new copy of this?
We will have that on the next agenda for finalization. I'm going to go through because the last reading of the boards and commissions changes overall will occur between now and your next meeting, and then we'll make sure that they are in compliance with each other.
Updating this, obviously, then? Okay.
If there's any changes that need to be made. Right now, as I see it, I don't think there are, but I would like to have one last shot at it because they may make changes before third reading to the ordinances that are in place.
I have to read it over and see if there's an area to make a change. I think, not that it will make a difference, but I think we have to have a better way, not from staff, from our end, of confirming attendance rather than on the day of. If either one of my colleagues had not shown up, I was going through a lot today, which would have made it a whole lot easier not to be here. Had what I was going through, I decided I can't make it, then the meeting would have been over. I know hopefully it'll be better when we have another member, but I think that we need to have something, doesn't mean it'll be followed, but I'd like to see something put into there that within 72 hours or something like that, unfortunately, meeting on Tuesday, even by Monday morning, if someone knows they can't make it, somebody can be sick, someone can get a flat tire and be sitting on the side of the road, things like that. Of course, we understand. But I would hope we could have a courtesy clause that if you know you're not, if you know you're out of town, if you know you have a conflict, that it happens, even though we try to plan for the first Tuesday. I think we need to stress, just so that the rest of us are not stressed, do we need to, is our presence going to mean that you're sending all these people home because you're sitting here at 6 o'clock and one person had an emergency and now you're done?
At least two thoughts on that.
Yes.
First of all, we did put attendance monitoring in the, well, we have attendance monitoring.
Right.
We put in the new rules and procedures that you needed to give notice, I think a month, that you weren't going to be there unless it was a medical emergency. Second of all, because this board only meets once a month, we don't consider attendance optional. We consider attendance a need. There are some discussions going on about attendance currently about the different boards as we're talking about the different boards and rules and things like that.
Where's that discussion occurring, Allison?
It's occurring
Staff?
among staff, and it has been occurring during the council meetings as they're talking about the board and commission rules. Yep. Anything specific about personnel or board members is something that goes into executive session, and oftentimes I'm not involved in executive session unless I have to be. But the we did address it in the when we adopt those.
Right.
And when we adopt those, then that will be the standard going forward. In the meantime, for that next meeting, I'll look to poll the members a little earlier than that, but we also will probably still poll on the day of because of things that happen.
I guess rather than policies and procedures, I guess maybe it's just something that should be addressed on a courtesy level, of letting people know the instant or within an hour or whatever, if you have an emergency, whether it's your own illness or you're going to be traveling or whatever, it just,
We would like that to happen. My 30 years experience of working with boards is it doesn't always happen, but we always hope for the best, and we do with what we can.
and the gentleman who will be joining us, is that Mr. Jones' spot or the other? Oh, it has to be Mr. Jones' spot. The other one doesn't have a council person to address,
No.
to appoint.
No, they can appoint,
Oh,
and they did.
okay, we were told that we could not get someone from that district until January.
Vice Chair, may I?
Yes, of course.
During the third reading of the rules and procedures for the overall boards that they happened at council the last meeting, they discussed that Chairman Harper, well, let me back up. In the rules and procedures, they specifically addressed that even though the representative is a representative for that district and there's requirements for residents and those things, it wasn't an individual appointment by that council member. So technically, any council member may appoint from a district, and Chairman Harper and Ms. McGriff, well, let's see, Councilmember Mosteller made the motion to appoint this man. Ms. McGriff made the second, and then they voted unanimously to approve him. So that will be a change. I think historically they believed it was that council member that must make the appointment, and that's been clarified during the rules and procedures discussion.
Excellent. Has Mr. Mosteller found a candidate to appoint?
Not at this time.
Okay.
That's all we have from staff.
Whoever posted idea was great.
Yes,
Thank you.
that was very nice.
Very helpful.
Appreciate not flipping around through that.
Still in recording?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, is there any other business? Oh, are there cases for next month? Anyone?
We have a potential, but the deadline is October 4th. Or is that the planning commission deadline? Planning commission deadline is October 4th. Other than the rules of procedures, as of today, we don't have anything.
Could we postpone the rules and procedures till the next month if we don't have cases?
Mr. Falconberry will need to be sworn in and probably start.
I'm sorry, but to come all the way here for the rules and procedures and no cases?
About we discuss this, and I'll discuss it with staff, and we'll come up with a solution.
That sounds good. All right, no other business? So moved. All in favor? Adjourned.